Welcome to the Emblazers show, where B2B leaders are igniting revenue. I'm Abby Kerr, your host, and on today's episode, you're going to hear an interesting conversation between my colleague Tim Riesterer and two guests who know and have learned a lot about AI role play, a topic that if you're a revenue growth leader, aspiring revenue growth leader, this is something that you're hearing a lot about. You may even be experimenting with in your own organization. Joining Tim today are first Dr. Johannes Habel, Associate Professor at the University of Houston's C.T. Bauer College of Business. Johannes is an expert in sales effectiveness and leadership, with a career that's taken him from top consulting at Booz & Company to teaching and research roles at ESMT Berlin and Warwick Business School. His work explores how science-based insights can help sales organizations perform better, lead smarter, and create lasting customer value. And joining Johannes is Jeff Cummings, Director of Salesforce Effectiveness at United Rentals. Jeff has spent more than 35 years helping United Rentals grow and evolve into the industry leader it is today. With a background that spans sales, management, and business planning, he's known for his ability to connect strategy to performance in a people-first culture. Jeff's seen firsthand how innovation, teamwork, and strong leadership drive growth for both the business and the people who make it happen. Let's go to the episode right now.
Jeff, Johannes, I've been looking forward to this day. When we first talked about it 4 or 5 months ago, Jeff, one of the things I always appreciate about you and United Rentals is you're on the leading edge of sales effectiveness stuff, and we talk regularly. And I know exactly what United Rentals does, but maybe for our listeners, you're a big company, but maybe not well known. Explain the company and kind of your selling scenario so the audience has some context.
Yeah, sure will. Thanks, Tim. So United Rentals is the largest commercial equipment rental company in the world. We have well over $20 billion in construction equipment that we rent out to contractors on job sites and industrial facilities and things of that nature. Not so much the homeowner piece of it, but all those other commercial and applications where folks use our equipment. And it's really kind of cool because it's not so much if our customers are going to need things, it's a matter of when and who they're going to choose to support their equipment needs. So we have just over 3,000 salespeople in the company. Most of those are our outside sales reps. Those are the folks calling on the contractors right on job sites and so forth about what kind of needs they're going to have and how we can help them with that equipment. We have about 2,000 inside salespeople. These are more reactionary folks that when the customers are calling our branches, they're answering the phone to help them out. And I'll hit on all those when we talk a little bit about a training program that we rolled out as well.
Awesome. Everybody right now is just like, wow, I did not know you guys were that big and there are that many feet on the street or online. Johannes, you are a practitioner and an academician. What I love about this, and we try to do this on these podcasts, is bring real data versus just opinion. And you're making Jeff and I look smart here today. Talk to me a little bit about your practice there at the University of Houston and how you're bringing some science to the art of selling.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a sales scientist and educator with the University of Houston, meaning my entire professional life centers around the idea of let's find out what makes sales organizations successful. And one of my specific interests is how can sales organizations use technology, and nowadays, of course, specifically artificial intelligence, to become more effective at what they do. So what we do usually is we run large-scale studies testing how certain different AI applications, predictive AI applications, generative AI applications, AI agents, how do they enhance the performance of real-life salespeople?
I don't think anybody's interested in that at all. No, I think literally that is the topic du jour, and we're going to nail that one today. So it was a couple of months ago when Jeff was talking about a training program they were rolling out, and that you were going to use AI role plays as part of that, and that you were going to study the impact and effectiveness of AI role plays. So today we are going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about the technology of simulations and role plays and its impact in an actual study that was conducted so we can see some real data-backed results. But Jeff, maybe sort of tell us about the training program, how and why role plays were part of it, and even the decision to go with AI and maybe how different that is from the past.
Yeah, so let me run down this real quick with you. So November 25, we were rolling out what we called leading change to all of our sales folks. We created 3 learning paths to do that. Our OSRs, our field sellers, our ISRs, our phone sellers, and our account managers who typically have customers that they're assigned. When you add those 3 groups, it's about 6,000 people. And anything you have to roll out, you have to figure out and scale in our company of what's the most effective way of doing that. Now, we called the program Leading Change because it was all around how we could help our salespeople lead change with our customers. And the main focus for our OSRs and account managers was on the discovery process. How can we understand the status quo of where our customers are so that we could understand their pain points and their preferences, and how do we help them lead towards all the solutions our company has to offer. For our ISRs, it was really around when customers call on the phone and ask for a quote on a piece of equipment, how we could give them the benefits of reserving that piece of equipment while we have them on the phone. And so the 3 learning paths we put together, those were all delivered through e-learning paths. We have learned since the pandemic that this is a much better, more impactful route for us to deliver our training. But one of the main parts always was the practice. How do you apply the skills you're delivering through e-learning? Now, prior to this, we had been using a program from Second Nature, their AI role-playing, for about 12 months. But it was really focused just for our onboarding OSRs, and we onboard about 50 new OSRs every month. And so we were getting pretty comfortable with how to leverage that tool, and we thought this would be a great application for a much larger and broader audience to get to use AI role-playing to practice what we were teaching in this lead-in change training. And it's really interesting, Tim, because one of the first things that people typically say is, I wasn't prepared. It's more real than I thought it was going to be. I wasn't expecting a true back and forth conversation with this AI bot, if you will. And it's once you get past that first one that, oh, okay, now I guess I actually have to step up and do this, that people really get good and appreciate it. And one of the things that's really cool about this is the immediate coaching feedback that a participant gets is consistent. And I've never had anybody come back and say, it didn't get me. I said something that it missed, that it wasn't accurate. Nobody says that. And so getting that feedback is really cool. Now, I will tell you, Tim, prior to us using the Second Nature AI role-play tool, we had a platform that we were fairly advanced back in the day when we were doing this, and that is where at this stage of the learning, people would have to now give a 2-minute video response. They'd load it up, and then our coaches would have to review it for the content of what was being said. The program itself had some AI built into it on how it was being said, but we would still have to measure the message. Now, with Second Nature, it does both of those things. So not only does it say your style of how you delivered it, but also the content. And so it focuses on the strengths, what you did well, and areas you can improve upon, which is awesome because if you think about our old approach, we just can't scale it with, I've got 4 trainers in our company, and to do 6,000 folks. And what we found through this is that on average, our people practiced the role plays 5 times. And so, which was very cool because we always said is you have to pass this score. And some people, even though they passed it, continue to try to get better at, which is really just a cool thing. And the other thing I'll add real quick is the thing that makes the AI role playing really interesting is that we can create the mood. So when somebody practices and they go back, they're going to get a different persona of that customer the next time they practice. So the first time I may have been very receptive to meeting you and talking to you. The second time I may say, Tim, this is awesome, but I've only got a couple of minutes. What can I do to help you out? And so it goes through a random selection of moods that each time you practice, you're getting a different type of customer. And that's what makes it really interesting and really lifelike in my opinion. So that was a kind of a brief, that's what we did. That's the tool we used. And actually, the Second Nature was the one who kind of introduced us to Johannes and his team on, it's one thing within the tool to say, we see how people, as they practice, they get better scores, which is great. But I didn't know what that actually means in the real day-to-day life of, are you actually performing better? And in this case, Are you generating more revenue if you practice and get better at your messaging? And that was the kind of foundation that Johannes and his team said, we're going to give you a ton of data. I mean, a lot of data from Salesforce.com and from Second Nature. And we're trying to connect those dots. As people go through the role play, do they actually, or can they perform better if they score better in the overall role play results? And that's what we were looking at.
As a pseudoscientist, I'm already salivating, Johannes, at the size of this data set and the possibilities of what could be studied. When you got connected to Jeff and you heard about this program, what went through your mind? And tell us a little bit how you constructed the study and what you thought would be studyable, I guess, and then we'll talk about the findings.
I mean, I was super excited. I mean, these kinds of studies, that is what we do. So typically we work with this kind of data with different collaboration partners, but this specific data set and the fact that United Rentals was using AI role plays, we hadn't had access to any company that had done that before. So that made me very excited. Also, because we at the University of Houston use the same AI role play software. Because one of the interesting facts about our university is that every student who goes through the business school has to take an introductory sales class. It's called professional selling. And one way of training students in professional selling is, of course, running role plays with them. Now, in the past, those role plays would be face-to-face role plays with faculty and teaching assistants. But the number of students is rising and rising and rising. We've got 1,300 students this semester now. So it's just not scalable to run face-to-face role plays. So about a year and a half ago, we as well moved over to AI role plays. And we're very excited about it. But we always had the question, well, does it really transfer into real life selling? When you use those role plays and apply your learnings, are you going to become more effective in real life? So we reached out to Second Nature, and Second Nature connected us to Jeff, and here we are.
Well, talk to me a little bit then, because therein lies the point, right? Okay, we can't scale, so let's just do AI role play simulations. Our managers could do this, but they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it consistently. They can't do it 5 times per person, like all the things we just talked about. But if it's not as good as human role play, or it doesn't produce the results, then, what is it? So I'm assuming then you guys were trying to figure out what were the things you were trying to specifically measure, and how did you measure those?
Yeah, exactly. So what we wanted to find out is salespeople who use the software, what happens to their real life revenue? So luckily for us, not everyone who was encouraged to use the software actually ended up using the software. I guess that's a typical issue when it comes to technology adoption. There's always a certain percentage of people who don't adopt those fancy tools that you provide.
Well, let me ask real quick, what was the percentage? Maybe Jeff, what kind of percentage participation did you get?
I think it was pretty good, but it was enough to give us sample size to compare one to the other, I think.
Yeah. So we had about 2,000 outside sales reps who were there doing this intervention. And out of those 2,000, about 400 never used the role-play simulator.
Okay. So there's your control group, right? That you didn't even have to ask people to take a placebo. You just used human nature to say, we'll get our control group. All right. I don't want to talk about how you get 100% compliance right now. That's not the point of this. But that's how you got your control. And so you could compare those who didn't versus those who did and look at real life results. Continue then, Johannes, now we're really excited to find out.
Now, it's sort of an A/B test, a naturally occurring A/B test, without anyone ever saying, you guys use it, you guys don't use it. Right? So when you do that, then you have these two groups, the A group and the B group. Of course, they might vary on certain things, because why do people use it or not use it? This might be strategically driven. So we do a little bit of statistical wizardry in the background to make sure those groups are really comparable. And then we can analyze now those who use it, what happens to their sales revenue afterwards compared to those people who don't use it. And what we found is that there are certain segments of salespeople who, when they use this role-play software, their real-life revenue increased noticeably, and not just noticeably, but substantially. So we found revenue uplifts, depending on the segment salespeople were in, from between 7% to up to 30% of revenue increase, which was really remarkable and which surprised even us.
What if your next big revenue move didn't come from a blog post or a cold LinkedIn scroll, but from a real conversation with leaders who've been there?
As the world of sales is constantly evolving and constantly changing, I think it's even more critical to get together with people to understand how are they helping to solve some of the problems that our buyers have today.
Meet Emblaze, a community of sharp B2B minds, CROs, CSOs, rising stars, sharing what's actually working in sales, enablement, and customer growth.
We always find a lot of value in the partnerships that we're able to form with some of the other great organizations that are part of the team here. And personally, I love the opportunity to connect with my peer group outside of other organizations and learn from them and try to figure out if there's things that they're doing that we can pull into our organization and benefit from.
Join a monthly forum, dig into science-backed strategy, and get insight you won't find in your feed. Start your Emblaze journey today at emblazegrowth.com.
Okay, so Johannes, how did you segment them and determine the percentage increases?
So what we found is that there are characteristics of salespeople that determine how much value they get out of running those role plays. Those people who benefit the most are those who have comparatively low performance in terms of quota achievement, those who have high tenure, who have been with the company for a long time, and those who work for high-performing supervisors. And the reason probably has to do with, first of all, people's motivation, second, their ability, and third, the support they receive. So those who have a relatively low quota attainment, they should be highly motivated to draw learnings, draw value out of running those role plays. Those who have high tenure probably have a very good understanding how to transfer those learnings into real life. They've been in all these kinds of situations. They know exactly what I learned here. Interesting. I can use this in these types of face-to-face interactions. And they just have a good working understanding of how to actually transfer this over. And those who work for high-performing supervisors, that to me is the most interesting one, because this points to a crucial success factor when it comes to running those role plays. You need somebody who helps you transfer your learnings into real life. You need somebody who coaches you along the way to take those learnings and now let's do them in real life and let me shadow you while you do it in a real life customer interaction and give you some face-to-face feedback afterwards. So those role plays are a very good diagnostic and first training to understand what could I improve and then trying to improve it. But then it really comes down to transferring those learnings into real life and doing it in a real customer interaction. And it turns out those people who have high-performing supervisors perform better in that respect.
So those were the three groups that got the greatest uplift on this. So Jeff, any surprises there for you? That's an interesting segmentation, by the way, to think about. And it really adds a lot of value as opposed to, well, here's our strategic accounts. This really gets to some real behavioral aspects. What surprised you, or how did you translate those results in terms of what you found most interesting?
One of the things that was most interesting to me, if you would have asked me to bet up front, would have been our younger tenure reps that would have gravitated to this and done this, run with this further than the folks that have been here a while, I would have said yes. Typically in our training, those are the laggers, the folks that have been here, right? I got it. I've been here. I've done this. I know just as well or better than you, right? But that's not what we saw, which to me, that was one of our surprises. There's the other two, the bookends, you kind of say logically makes sense. With more support, you would tend to do better. And I think that's very interesting. But the folks that have been with us, it just says that, and a little bit to Johan's point, that yes, I have the ability to go do some of this training, maybe more so than the rest, but that's always what you see when you roll out training. So that one was interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm going to just, on behalf of the very more seasoned people of the world, I was the most impressed by those results, that they would do it, they would embrace it, and then leverage it in such a way. The underperformer maybe saw this as an opportunity to jumpstart something. The manager in the loop still matters. That's what I take from the third group that succeeded, is like, we didn't replace them by doing AI role play simulations. They still had a role to play in like driving this into real world application. Am I interpreting this right?
So one of the things, Tim, we've learned is that the reporting side of this, to Johannes' piece, is a point, is very, very important. But most people, I think, would look at using an AI role play tool as just the sales and customer facing. what we've started to do now is actually use it to help coach our coach. So when our managers are asked to help support sales reps, how could they help give them advice, constructive criticism on how to get better? Now we're actually using the AI role play to help them do that. So as an example, when I log in as a manager into Second Nature, I get to see a short video of a rep interacting with a customer. And then based on a little bit of training we've provided that says this is what good looks like in that situation to the branch manager, they're now having a role play with that rep on, hey, based on what I saw, here's some of the feedback I would give you on how to improve. Now, the important thing is we tell them this is through the lens of the customer. You don't have to be a sales expert to give constructive feedback to your rep. But what did you see them do? How could they improve their interactions with the customer? And that's what they get to practice. And the other thing that's really interesting about that is we've also applied the moods in that as well. So I could be coaching a sales rep that's very receptive to my feedback. The next one I'm coaching is, Tim, I got this, buddy. I'm good. And I don't know that I need your feedback. So how do you provide coaching feedback to somebody like that as well? So the tools really help us kind of expand how and who we kind of interact with, showing them ways to practice what good looks like.
Yeah, Johannes, this is all the different opportunities now that we know that there's some upside to this. There's other groups who probably could see these results and maybe they don't get to excuse themselves the next time. The managers get to see that their counterparts who do certain things get better results. So now they can figure out how to step up. Anything else in the data that you're seeing or you think you want to continue to look for that would serve Jeff's purposes or anybody who's in enablement and training and development?
Sure. So what Jeff just described, running role plays with the managers, that is really cutting edge. I don't know a lot of companies, actually, I don't know any other company that is going in that direction right now. So that's really impressive. And Jeff and I are actually talking right now about doing the next study about exactly this group of people. So does running role plays, manager role plays, improve manager success? So we're going to have some more results, hopefully in the near future. Another thing that we saw in the data, seeing that you asked, what makes sense, but also I find interesting is sales reps who practiced more got more value out of it. So we actually saw a huge variety in terms of how much salespeople practiced with those role plays. The average, as Jeff said, was 5 role plays, but it went up to 94 role plays.
Are you talking about a singular rep did it 94 times?
A single rep running 94 role plays. Exactly right. Because it's very gamified, right? So you get feedback from the AI, and the AI says out of 100 possible points, you only got 85. And then that triggers some people to keep trying. It's really gamified.
I'm curious about that. Was it simply gamified and they're like 85, I want to get 90? Or was it 85, I'm good, did you give them a passing score to shoot for?
Yes, they had to reach an 80 to pass.
Okay, all right. So even after they passed, there were people who wanted to keep pushing it. Was there a prize to be won, or is this just human nature?
No, there wasn't a prize to be won in this case. We actually have done one where we've kind of added prizes as well, but I don't know that got much more of a lift, and just a different focus.
So Johannes, what other data were you going to share with us of those results?
I would say there was some prize to be won without the reps even knowing it, because what our data shows is that those reps who practiced a lot actually are now more effective. They generate more sales revenue, and probably they get higher variable pay, which is a pretty nice price to get out of running role plays.
Well, that is the most sales-oriented, relevant answer possible, I think. It's not a Cupid doll that they get, but what else about the data that you saw?
So we see the more they practice, the more their real-life performance increases. We also saw a clear correlation between the AI score they achieve and their real-life selling performance. So you have to practice a lot, and you have to focus on getting your AI score up. Where the combination of these two things is going to actually translate into being able to do better in real life and bringing in more revenue afterwards.
It's hard to imagine a scenario for people who are listening to this and who've been on the fence going, nah, I don't think I want to try AI role play simulation, Jeff. I mean, why would you go back at this point? Now it's got to be, what is my imagination thinking of next to try?
Yeah, no question. We work closely with Second Nature on how they continue to advance the tool and what kind of things they're looking to add to it that makes it even more beneficial for companies like us. And, the sky's the limit when you think about AI. And so, I honestly, I'll tell you, when this was a year and a half ago now, when we looked at this tool, and I was at the Emblazers conference in Denver, and those guys had a booth there. And they said, "Oh, why don't you come look at our tool?" And I said, "Yeah, I did that a year ago. It was like a party trick at best. I wasn't impressed." And they go, "No, you should look at it now." And I will tell you, Tim, the difference in 12 months, what that program was to where it ended up when we re-engaged with them again, and now this is a year and a half ago, and how it continues to progress, it's amazing. And really, truly, the sky's the limit. And most people will ask, well, is it very complicated to set up? And that continues to get easier as well as they go. But I will tell you, in about 15 minutes, we can create any scenario we want. We can add in the pieces that we're interested in the AI to listen for, to look for. And it's a very short process on the backside to get this set up. And we're actually putting some together right now for our inside sales reps on how they have. One of the things we're working on is what we call a warm transfer. So if I call one of our branches and they don't have a piece of equipment, sometimes it's pretty easy to say, hey, just call our other location, or let me give you their phone number. And what we're trying to say is, no, we want to create a warm transfer. And what that means is, Mr. Customer, while I put you on hold, let me call that other branch for you and connect you. And so we're using AI now to have multiple people on the line that they're getting information from the customer, putting that on hold, and then now talking to the other ISR at their location to say, here's what's about to happen. And so it allows us to practice what that good looks like type of a scenario as well.
Johannes, when you look at all the AI possibilities out there, am I just overreacting here and saying this feels like one of the primary ones that's proving value, the AI role play, AI simulation, or how does this fit in the various AI and technology advances that you're monitoring? And where would this be on your checklist for sales enablement and sales leaders listening to this right now of things they should try first?
I mean, there's so many developments and so many cool tools out there that are valuable that I would say it is one of the tools that can create value for you. But I'm not sure whether it's going to be top of the list, middle of the list. That's hard to say because a lot of those tools also have not been studied yet. So use cases that have been studied so far is, for example, call analytics platforms. We know by now that if you use call analytics, that this also increases salespeople's success. And there it seems to be specifically the mid-performers who benefit the most. There was a study published by colleagues a couple of years ago. Then I myself am working on an AI goal setting study right now where a company uses an AI that sets quotas for sales reps and then tells them how many activities do you have to log every day in order to achieve your quota. And there we also see it affects people, it makes them more successful. But there's so much stuff happening right now. So I would say it's really a case-by-case decision. I would say as a company, you have to really understand where is our current bottleneck that we want to resolve, and then try and find an AI that can help you solve that bottleneck and experiment and learn from it.
You're willing to take any company's database and help them experiment, I'm assuming.
That is correct.
We'll put in the show notes how to get in touch with the folks here with Jeff and Johannes so you can learn more about it. Thanks for this. This has been amazing. We here believe in hot closes as the thing people remember most as the cool thing they heard last. So Jeff, I'm going to give it to you first. What would be one sort of interesting tidbit we didn't hear yet today that people should take away?
I think one of the most difficult things for people rolling out any kind of training is knowing how it sticks and did it get across? And the whole role playing is such an important piece of that. In the traditional sense, it's awkward. I don't like doing it. In the AI sense, it's more of a safe environment. I feel like I can practice more. And one of the things that we learned through the interactions with Johannes and team was that when our people did practice, every time they practice, their performance, their sales revenue improves by 1%. That's amazing. When you can say on average, our people through this particular training practice 5 times, getting a 5% lift in performance for those people that were now able to go apply that in the real world is huge. And I think any trainer, that's gold. That's what you're looking for, right? It's one thing to convey the message. It's the other thing to say, did it stick? Did our people use it? And I think shifting thought from what you had to in the past from more of a compliance-based training program to now more of a coaching-based program, that's what it helped us do.
Now I got to go back to earlier in the conversation. Did that person who practiced 94 times get a 94% lift? There must be a line there, but I love it. Like on average, one more practice, 1 more percent, one more practice, 1 more percent. That's amazing. That's gold. Johannes, your last thoughts here that you want to leave folks with.
I would say be creative and don't be afraid to experiment. I think United Rentals is really paving the way in how they approach this whole topic, right? You think about what are use cases that would really create value for us, and then you try them out. For example, let's train our leaders in having good code drives and giving feedback to reps. Just as well, imagine you come up with a new innovation. You want to bring a new innovation to market. And it's the kind of innovation where sales reps maybe don't feel too comfortable talking about because they don't know the product well. Well, maybe use an AI roleplay to prep them for that, to have these discussions with customers. Or a lot of companies right now want to nudge customers to use online channels more to increase selling efficiency. So how do you nudge customers to use the online channel for straight rebuys, for example? Again, why not use a role play to train reps in having these kinds of discussions with customers? I think the limitations are tremendous, and we are just beginning to understand what are all the wonderful things that we can do with AI role plays. And I would just say, try it out and learn.
The limitation is our imagination. Well, Johannes and Jeff, you're going to be doing more of this. You're going to be experimenting. I'm a sucker for real data. So when you guys get some more results, let us know, and we'll be happy to have you back on the podcast. Thank you so much. It was a rich dialogue, and I know all of our listeners got a lot out of today.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Johannes. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Tim. And thank you for watching or listening to the Emblazers show on your favorite podcast app. Remember to like and subscribe, and join us next time.